Hey guys, we're going to be going back to the Enigmatic Assailant. I've seen some people saying they're having problems with this boss because it does an 800% Dark Imperil, and one of the missions is no KOs for the STMR mogul. That's obviously the primary reward here, so no KOs. It's a demon human, weak to light element. He runs away at 50% health, but the big thing is he uses a 800% Imperil with a Dark Nuke. So there's various ways to survive this, like just kill the boss before you can use the attack, or gear for enough resistance, or mitigate enough to survive it. The easiest way is to just absorb it. So I'm gonna show you a few options to absorb it. So we're gonna be using Young Xehanort. Now this is a limited time item, or limited time unit, which you may not have, but he was given completely for free. So a lot of players probably do have him and don't realize it. But he does absorb darkness at level 120. Make sure he is max leveled. So some other options are Veritas of the Dark, the original Dark Absorb. He's really old. Most people probably do have him. The only reason I'm not using him on the team is because he's technically not a free unit, even though he's ancient, and I'm sure everyone has him at this point. He absorbs darkness. So does Kingdom Hearts Riku if you have him. And these other three I'm listing just for completion's sake. Dark Knight Leon only absorbs it in his limited duration shift form. So does Kingdom Hearts Riku, only a limited duration shift form absorb. And then Carton can make the entire party absorb dark for one turn on his LB. More of a headache than that's really worth. I recommend you use either Riku, Veritas of the Dark, or Young Xehanort as your provoker. Because the 800% Imperil is only single target. Now the boss does do AoE dark damage as well, but there's no AoE Imperil, so all you need is 100% on the party. So Young Xehanort is just going to use Calamity Border every turn, and we're using, with Calamity Border, 100 or better dark resist on everyone in the party, so they're all immune. Xehanort doesn't have any dark resist, but he doesn't need it, so who cares? We're going to use Noctis to just Sword Imperil. We're going to use Aerith to Light Amp. And we'll use Venera to just break the boss. Now, if you don't have Venera, you could use any good breaker you want. If you don't have a 90% breaker, it'll just take you a few extra turns. But we're going to be basically immune to everything with this party. You can take as long as you want. There is no turn count mission. So let's go ahead and just reload Xehanort every turn. Let's guard Venera. Let's have Aerith do Wish to Save the Planet for a killer buff. And we're just going to chain on Titus and Noctis. Now I'm intentionally using like a little bit of a slower DPS here, just to show you, so that we don't like skip any phases or anything, or we don't like OTK the boss. So, this is going to be a little bit of a slower clear because we're using some slow chain errors, but it's going to get there eventually. So there's some Imperils on your Provoker. He does big Imperils starting right away. Next turn, he's going to do even bigger damage with a bigger Imperil, but we're going to deal with that in just a second. We don't need that quite yet. Let's go ahead and chain these up. And Aerith will just guard for now. Actually, we're going to shift Aerith because she's wearing the auto LB stuff in the shift form too. Guard this. Okay, so this turn he's going to do Tyrannical Force. I think it's every third turn. There's Tyrannical Force. So we'll look right here, and we can see our Provoker is deep in the negatives on Dark Resist. Now, if you're using a normal tank or Provoker, this is going to deal a large amount of damage. It is survivable with mitigations and good breaks and all that kind of stuff, but it hits really hard. So just flat out absorbing it is the simplest way to deal with that problem. So we'll use Aerith to refresh this. We'll refresh Marauder's Blade, reload you, and then Titus will go back to chaining. That's not chaining. And we'll chain for a few more turns. So this is, like I said, this won't be really the quickest clear, but if you're absorbing the dark damage, it doesn't really matter how many turns you take. The boss can't hurt you. So just keep up that dark resist on the party, either with the buff or with gear, and you'll be good. So we'll just do this. We can just guard you. We'll be done before it matters. We'll be done before that matters. And we'll keep chaining a little bit. So probably 2 more turns, and we'll have the boss dead. I think it's every third turn he does his like charge up and like I'm gonna get ready for you next turn. So let's watch the animations here. Yeah, feel the might of the ultimate power. So every third turn is that big Imperil, But he does do a 400% imperil. Oh, actually, I think the 800% is actually permanent. I think so. It could be. I don't know, but it doesn't really matter if you're using a dark absorber. It doesn't matter how long it takes because you're just permanently immune. So I kind of struggled a little bit with should I use there's Tyrannical Force again. Should I use for my quote unquote budget run? We're out of mana on Noctis, so I guess gear Noctis for more mana regen if you're using him. But there's the end of the fight. We just repeat all this. So I kind of struggled. Who would cause less of a commotion using as a provoker, Dark Veritas or Young Xehanort? Because Dark Veritas is a permanently available option, but he is not technically free, whereas Young Xehanort was free. But for those of you that don't have Young Xehanort, you should have Dark Veritas. So to stick him on the team, as you can see, Noctis is really old. Noctis is not designed to be a chainer. But there was the party. I'll show you the gear we use real quick. But it's just mostly whatever, as long as your provoker absorbs darkness, and then the rest of your party has 100% after a buff. You can go for eternity on this fight. So Young Xehanort just had provoke with Moogle Charm, Plushie, and Dangerous the Blood Pumping. You could use things like Durandal, etc. You could also stick him on like Golem for active provoke. Anything like that works. And we gave him Calamity Border just for something to do. Because he absorbs darkness with his passive, Determined to Fight. Converge damage, dark damage to HP, just permanently always active. You can take as long as you need to on this fight. Aerith was just in Holy Amplify. I gave her some LB fill. 40 or better Dark Resist with the Calamity Border. Now, technically speaking, she does have Radiant Prayer, which is a 100% Dark Resist buff. You could have used that and not had gear on the party at all, but I didn't want the clear to be locked to like one specific unit, so we used Calamity Border and Unlimited Resist gear. Same thing here at Venera. 60 Dark Resist, 90 Break. It speeds up the fight if you don't have her. Lara Croft, Hawkeye, Locke, all these are good replacements. Cacteria. If you don't have any of these, use a low tier breaker. It'll take you longer. You've got infinite turns with a Dark Absorber. Noctis was just here for Sword and Peril. He's technically geared for damage, but he's not a chainer, so it didn't really do anything. But he was like almost maxed on killers, like technically speaking. But he's intended as a jumper, not as a chainer. 60 or better Dark Resist. And then Titus, 60 or better Dark Resist, a two-handed sword, non-elemental, and then there we go. Like I tossed on a few STMRs just to speed it up a little bit, but there we go. And he is maxed on everything. And I could have used his LB to like done even more damage, but I wasn't going for a speed clear. I was going for a safe clear. And again, Veritas or Riku also have permanently active Dark Absorb, or you could use Carton to base form LB every third turn, and then you could dispel the imperil off your provoker after. That's like a big headache. I don't recommend Carton for this clear, but if you have no other options, if you somehow have Carton but don't have Dark Veritas, which it probably applies to no one on the planet, but if that is somehow the case, you can use Carton instead. Anyway, there was the Assailant clear, so I hope it helped. See you next time.